This t-shirt fitted me before I went on holiday, and then it shrank. Oh well, at least it gets the message across. Hey folks, it's Finn. Welcome back, lovely people. Thank you so much for tuning in to another video. And if you're tuning in for the very first time, then a massive, massive welcome. A word of warning before we start this video. I'm currently having one of my hot sweats and I'm wearing a very thin white t-shirt. So at any moment now, this might turn into a wet t-shirt dunk competition. I didn't choose today's attire very sensibly for today's dysautonomic attack. Sweat attack. It's much easier to say, isn't it? So today's video is a catch up about my PIP application, Personal Independence Payment, which, if you're not in the UK, is a benefit that we have over here, a non-means tested benefit to help people who have long-term conditions or who are disabled, and with a bit of money to help towards the costs that you incur with being long-term chronically sick or disabled. And it is notorious here in the UK, and as I've found out since sharing about it, all over the place it seems that this kind of benefit is so hard, not only hard to actually be approved for, but just has so many negative experiences attached to when it comes to applying for it. I mean, I'm having so many people respond to my videos and comments about this, and hearing what other people have been through as well. It's absolutely appalling. It really is. So thank you everybody who replied to my last video where I shared about how I had applied for personal independence payments and been declined, and that my next step was going for a mandatory reconsideration, which is where you ask them to relook at all your evidence and the assessment, and to then reconsider their decision and to see if they'll re-award you the points. So that's what I want to talk about today. Just a quick catch up really before I start, just to say thank you also for your comments. I'm a bit today, by the way. We've just got back from a little mini break. We went to stay with some friends. My best friend. We've been friends since we were 11 years old, and I'm 40. I always do this. I'm 48 now, and she's 48, and we're both 49 this year. So we've been friends a long time. We had a really chilled out. We planned this because we knew we couldn't meet for Christmas, so it was our January Christmas break. We had a little hot tub break, really bargain break we found. We did a tiny bit of sightseeing, and then just spent the rest of the time in the hot tub, and it was absolutely glorious. So really, it was very spoon gentle. But of course, I'm still tired coming back, so I'm just a bit like, brain's not quite functioning on all cylinders, and I'm very like sweaty. I've got the whole kind of like POTS, orthostatic intolerance issue going on, that as soon as I move a bit, I'm just like breaking out in a sweat. Fun. So bear with me a bit. So yeah, my last video was all about, oh yeah, because I've got this going on, coming down off my antidepressants. It's been horrid. Not gonna lie. I have made a bit of an update about that on my Ko-fi page, which is there for everyone to see. I'll link. I always do this the wrong way. I think it's that way. I'll put a link up. It's for everyone to see. So I've linked my recent video there and a little brief update of how it's going. And I'll do a full update about how that's going. But I changed it because I was supposed to taper off every 2 weeks to lower the dose. But I stayed on the lower dose for an extra week because I was suffering so bad with brain zaps and just feeling, as someone described it in the comments, they described it as, was it their body feeling jangly? Can't remember how they described it, but it hit the nail on the head as to exactly how I was feeling. Was it jangly? I can't remember who it was in the comments that said it, but it was exactly how my body's feeling. Well, whatever it was right. So I've changed it, but I've just started coming down again. So yeah, there'll be an update on how that's going all that soon. But just to say thank you for thinking of me and to relating with what I was sharing about the brain zaps, because if you've never come down off antidepressants before, it's really hard to describe what a brain zap feels like. But if you have come down off antidepressants before, you'll know all too well how hideous they are and what it feels like when your whole body is zapping like that, and when you move your head and you get them, it's just blah, blah, blah. But mood wise, I'm doing all right, and anxiety wise, I'm doing all right. So it's okay. I think going into it, the positive mindset and knowing I'm doing it for a good reason is probably helping. So yay to that. Okay, that's my brief update. So on to what's happening with my PIP application. So, brief summary for those just coming to my channel. I have been on long-term personal independence payments for a while for mental health, but on very low, so the low rates. With me developing ME CFS, I put in a change of circumstances because everything became so much worse. I needed help and support with everything, and also with my mobility. So I put in a change of circumstances which required me being reassessed. Weirdly, despite sending in loads of evidence and having an assessment, they decided that I was better and so awarded me less points than I even had previously, which meant that I was no longer eligible for the daily living component that I'd been getting. But they did award me a lower rate mobility, so at least they got something a little bit right. So I then challenged it with what's called the mandatory reconsideration, because I believe I should be on the higher rate daily living component because of just how severe everything is in terms of, my partner does pretty much everything around the home. We look at the 50% rule when it comes to personal independence payments and what you can manage at home, and for over 50% of the time I cannot shower, cook, clean, all of these things. It's quite clear they've got it hideously wrong. Quite clear. I also shared in that last video just how incorrect that assessment was, just how badly wrong he'd got it, just how much he'd focused on the mental health and not really listened to the new diagnosis and new ways that my symptoms were affecting these issues, the way he'd not written down actually what had happened in the assessment, that he'd said I hadn't needed support and hadn't struggled, and he'd missed off the 3 key times we'd stopped the assessment, and he hadn't written that down. And then, of course, there was the hideous misgendering that I still haven't made a complaint about, but I will do. But, trouble is with ME, you have to rank things in order of priority, and that really hasn't been, unfortunately, getting the PIP done has been the higher priority at the moment, so that hasn't been done yet. So there was all of those kind of things that I was saying about, and saying, this is what I believe I should score, and this is why, because there's lots of, on PIP you've got what are called descriptors of what you can manage. So looking at the descriptors of what I can and can't manage, and the points that correspond with those, that's what I put in my mandatory reconsideration to show what I feel I should have scored. But I also did challenge the mobility component as well, because I'm not sure where I sit on that. If they still award me low rate mobility, that's kind of okay, but I kind of feel I'm somewhere. I think I should have scored higher points. Whether that would put me into the higher rate mobility, I'm not sure, but I've challenged that as well. But I received a response to that mandatory reconsideration, and as I said in that last video, it was as I expected, that it came back, no, we're sticking to our original choice. I think it's something like only 15% of mandatory reconsiderations are successful. Forgive me if that figure is wrong. I will find some links and put them below to some figures around this that might be helpful to people. I will say now that it's very, very common for you to be refused when you first apply to PIP, that when you do a mandatory reconsideration to also be refused, but then when you go to appeal, most people win at appeal. That tends to be the way. It's just madness, isn't it? So I got my mandatory reconsideration notice back, and the way it reads, to be honest, reads as if they hadn't even read my mandatory reconsideration letter. Now, people said to me, don't spend too much time on it because you'll probably have to go to appeal anyway. And I heard what they said, but I thought, look, if I'm going to go to appeal anyway, I might as well do all of the work. I might as well do what needs to be done. So I did go into a bit more detail. And it's clear by the way it's written. They just haven't read my responses. Shall I read you the kind of main gist of what they said? Right, bear in mind, I have MECFS, myalgic encephalomyelitis, which is more commonly, you tend to hear it called chronic fatigue syndrome, or MECFS, okay? So this is a neurological condition, all right? Here we go. We've considered your evidence. You do not suffer restrictions. You receive no specialist input from any physiotherapist. Therefore, it's reasonable to say that you can stand and then move more than 20 meters. And you do not need help with preparing food, washing, bathing, dressing, undressing, and moving around. So their basic argument is, because I don't have any specialist input from a physiotherapist, that I therefore don't need the additional help. Now, if you know anything about MECFS, there is no requirement to have a physiotherapist. A physiotherapist is not going to cure ME. It is a neurological condition. It can cause issues that might require a physiotherapist's input, but it isn't a requirement to have a physiotherapist. The standard treatment for ME, there isn't one at the moment. There is no cure for ME. What happens when you're diagnosed with ME is you're sent to a ME service if you're lucky enough to have one in your area. A lot of places still don't. And what happens is you're taught pacing techniques to manage your limited energy, because ME is primarily an energy limiting condition, which means you have chronic fatigue. You also have post-exertion malaise, which means when you exert yourself, you get a payback that then happens up to 48, 72 hours later. That's the main symptom of it. You often with it get things like migraine, like I do. You often get muscle aches and muscle weakness. But this comes mainly from the fact that the body doesn't have enough energy to support its systems. A physiotherapist manipulating your body is not going to change this fact. Some people with ME do have muscle and joint problems as well. I'm starting to develop some. I might now need a physiotherapist. But it's a holistic way of treating somebody. So when you get diagnosed with ME, you may get sent to other services to get help. So I'm seeing a specialist now for POTS and orthostatic intolerance, because that's a big problem for me. It might not be for somebody else with ME. Somebody else with ME might have really bad problems with their joints, so they might be seeing a physiotherapist, but it isn't a stipulation. So they've said, because I'm not seeing a physiotherapist, that then means I'm not bad enough. And they go on to say that it's not about your condition, it's about how it affects you. So they're kind of implying that it doesn't matter that this person that assessed me didn't understand my condition, because it's what I've argued. But it clearly does matter, because if he doesn't understand the pathway to how ME is diagnosed and then treated, how can he argue that I'm not doing the right thing? I have been sent the right pathway for my treatment, and I'm having the right treatment for my needs. And this is where this system is failing left, right, and centre, because if you're having people assess you and it's then their assessment of you that makes the decision. If they're not qualified enough to understand your condition, then it all falls through the floor, doesn't it? They've got it, excuse the phrase here, but they've got an arse about face. They are treating chronically ill and disabled people, firstly, as liars and criminals, because they should really be looking at all the. I mean, I've sent so much evidence from my doctors, specialists, people in my care, of people. I mean, they've got documented stuff about what ME does to people. That should be the main evidence, not somebody who's only met me once, seen me for an hour, hardly looked up from his computer, and is a physiotherapist who has absolutely clearly no knowledge of ME. Why base it on that than all the other much better evidence, This is what's wrong. They should really only be inviting people in if there's an issue. It is if they are really saying first, we don't trust this person, we are suspicious, let's get them in first and go on that rather than the other evidence we've got. It's maddening. It's maddening. The one thing that's helped me get through this, because it's been going on now a year, is seeing a therapist, which we've had to pay for out of our own money because I'm still waiting. I've been on the waiting list for a year for counselling with the NHS because it's just such a backlog, isn't it? Because I mean that refusal and the misgendering really sent me off the rails. I was really bad. It really did knock me for six, and seeing this therapist has really just helped me to kind of park myself outside of this a little bit, because it feels very personal. It feels like there's something wrong with me. They're saying I'm a liar. They're saying this, this isn't real, and it's horrible because this is something that's been going on in society for a long time around ME. It's not the only condition. If you look back, this was like this for MS and Parkinson's. These were conditions that nobody believed were really there for ages. It was like in people's minds and all of that, and then diagnostic and testing stuff caught up and went, oh look, we can see it in the brain. And this is what will happen and is happening with ME and even with long COVID. We're starting to actually see markers in the body to say, look, it does exist. But because these conditions have such a history, it feeds in to like the systems in the world that are there that are supposed to be protecting us, that discriminate against people like this. It's so hard. So seeing a therapist has really helped to manage this, and I'm in a much better space to go, it is what it is. And I'm just hoping that going to appeal, where it is kind of an independent panel of people, sense will be seen. It's got to. It really has, because I mean, I am poorly. My brain doesn't work very quickly anymore. I stutter, I fall over my words, but my intelligence is still there. And I've written what I know is a really intelligent write-up of what's going on, and I read that and I say to Chris, look, how can they read this and not see sense? So I'm hoping they'll go to appeal and read it and go, what are they thinking? I've had some help this time. I contacted a local charity and they helped, but unfortunately all they really did was just copy and paste what I'd already written and sign it. So, all this thing about getting help, it sounds great, get help, but there's really not much in the way of charities out there operating at the moment. We are really stuck at the moment in terms of cost of living crisis, and charities really not having much money to help people, and it's really, really difficult. I know how blessed I am to be in a position that I've got a partner and support there to help me deal with this. And it makes me so angry. There are so many people out there that don't have that. And I've read so many comments in response to my video where people have given up because they are on their own and they can't get help to do this, or they feel so like heartbroken and ashamed and awful when this happens to them that they give up. And the comments from people they gave up a year ago and they're now retrying now, and I'm just like, this shouldn't be happening. This is there as a safety net to help people. Being chronically ill and disabled is so expensive, it really is so expensive. I mean, we can't get benefits, because this could be another rant all on its own right, but when you're on disability benefits, and this is the same overseas as well because I've seen this, if you're in a relationship, you lose all your benefits. And this would be okay if the threshold was higher, but the threshold of income is really quite low. And this happened to me and Chris when we first got together. I was on benefits when we got together, and I was transitioning off them because I was on a benefit to help me start my own business as I was kind of developing my speaking career and all of that. And as soon as me and Chris got together, I lost all of that. And this happens to so many people who are on like disability benefits, and it's really awful the way this is done. Our whole benefit system is really quite poor. So, you know, to get a little bit of personal independence payment, it's not even that much money, but it would just help to go towards costs like aids for living, a bit of counselling and support, and someone to come and do some housework to take some extra stress off. Just things like that that would just make such a difference to people's lives. And fundamentally, take the strain off everywhere else as well, you know? So, oh, it just makes me so mad. Can you tell how long have I waffled on about this? I'm not too bad. It's only 22 minutes of soapboxing today. But yeah, so that's where I am with it. I've lodged the appeal online. I got that done just before Christmas. I got that done. So it's just a waiting game now. Could be anything. Could be a month. It could be 18 months. Who knows? It just depends whenever there's a date ready to see me, really. But I've done all I can do. All I can do is just keep rewriting the arguments and dressing them up in prettier ways. There's not much else I can do. Really isn't. What I will say is, anyone else watching this who it's happened to, please just keep going through the appeal. If you've been refused, do a mandatory reconsideration. If your mandatory reconsideration has been refused, do an appeal. If your appeal has been refused, go to a high court appeal. Go online, look at, if you're in the UK, go on benefits and work. I'll put all the links that I've been using underneath. You know, you are entitled to this benefit, and I don't know why they are making it so impossible and why they are turning us into people that feel like criminals. I mean, making us go to a court to appeal this, and they just put you in this mindset of like bad people for just wanting a benefit to help make our lives more comfortable. It's really horrible. We shouldn't be put in that position. So please do appeal and don't feel bad. You know, it's not our fault. This is something that's there to help, and we shouldn't be made bad for applying for this. So, you know, it is in the link below. I know a few people have messaged me. I do always try and reply to messages where I can. I am one person, and one person with a chronic illness who I call Fred, and Fred does not allow me to do much. You know, I try and do what I can. I reply to as many as I can, and I will, but there'll be links below. But do ask for help. There are lots of charities out there that are still working to help. So yeah, I will update as soon as I hear any more. And I might wear this for my appeal. I saw this and I thought, I'm going to wear this for when I make this video. I won't wear it to the appeal because I'm not cross with the appeal people because they're independent. But if I ever go to a DWP meeting, I might wear this because it's like, I don't need a physiotherapist, people. I don't have the crayons to explain this to you. Oh dear. Blimey. Honestly, sometimes I have got to a point now where I can read these letters and just laugh and go, really? I can lift my leg, so therefore I don't need any help with cooking? Are you having a giraffe? And sorry, one more thing. I mean, I've mentioned this before, right? I am quite new to all this diagnosis stuff, right? And at the time I had my assessment, I was quite new in diagnosis. I was still adjusting to my life. And the guy said to me, what's your hobbies? And I struggled because I'm like, what do I do with my life? I don't really do anything with my life now. And I went, camping. Because it was my hobby, right? Until I got poorly. And me and Chris, as we know, have tried our best to try and adapt so I can still go camping, which involves poor Chris putting up this tent on his own. We've got like this bigger tent that we can stand up in it, and a camp bed with a mattress, and it's, we did that because we thought what I was going through was temporary. But now what's involved when we go camping is me sitting in a chair and poor Chris erecting a tent. And what did we do? We did that twice last year. I think both times Chris put his back out. We're now looking at a trailer tent. That should have gone in my January goals list. But anyway, so I said this off the cuff, right? We go camping, and I said, we are trying. That's one of our hobbies. That we've tried to adapt it, and I explained that, we just, we do the kind of camping where we park the car, and then, we've got this bigger tent now, so that we've got a fold-out camp bed is off the floor, and we've got an air bed, and that Chris does everything. And from that, he decided that I'm like a weekly camper, and the way he kind of portrayed it was like I was like Bear Grylls or something. You know what I mean? It's just like, really? So, yeah, they're clearly out to just try and get you rather than try and help you. So you gotta laugh, because if you don't, you'd go bonkers. Yeah. Right. I had some announcements before I sign off, so bear with me. Had to pull them up on my laptop because I've forgotten to write them down. So we have a new Friends of Finn supporter this week. So welcome, Thomas Marengo. Thomas Marengo. I'm really sorry if I've said that wrong. Hopefully by now you'll have seen previous videos where I apologise profusely for my pronunciation. Welcome to our Friends of Finn. I keep saying to Friends of Finn supporters, well, Friends of Finn, everyone, that I'm going to be making new YouTube loyalty badges. No, I'm not. New Friends of Finn emojis. Like when you're in the comment section, you can like do special emojis when you're a Friends of Finn member. I'm going to be making some new ones of those. So keep an eye out on your members community tab, because I'm going to be putting a poll up soon about what you might want to see. And talking of members only emojis, you'll have a chance to use them in real time this weekend, because we are going to be doing a live stream. Oh yeah, I'm so excited. We haven't done a live stream for ages, so we thought it was about time we did. Now, I think it's going to be Saturday. We were originally saying Sunday, but actually I think it's probably going to be Saturday for reasons why it'll make sense. And I guess I'm going to say probably about 2 o'clock, because then that way it's UK time. That way it should mean that overseas folks can do it as well, if my head remembers the times I used to do it. Keep an eye out. If you are not subscribed already, please do subscribe and tick the notifications bell. And then when I do post the live link and with all the details, you'll get notified. But it's going to be this weekend, either Saturday the 4th or Sunday the 5th. This weekend anyway. I don't know dates. I'm dreadful with dates. But it'll probably be the Saturday. Yeah. But it'll be sometime between... I'm sorry about this. It'll be sometime between 12 and 2. We have some news to share, which members know about, and you've done such a good job at keeping this quiet. Well done. I'm really excited about that. So welcome, Thomas Marengo. You'll have a chance to use your members' emojis and to see your members' badge this weekend. So yeah, welcome. I had some other news as well. Yes, thank you to people who've bought signed copies of my book on Ko-fi this weekend. Folks in the UK will know we're having loads of problems with our postal service because of strikes. We're also having problems because there's been some kind of cyber attack on our post office. Did you know about this? Because I didn't know about this until I went into the post office. So anybody buying my book from overseas, I'm really struggling at the moment to get books out. They will go out. They will just go out really slowly. So a huge apology. I don't know how long it's going to take for them to go. If you're worried, if you haven't got your book, just send me a message, send me an email, and just keep me updated on if it's arrived or if it hasn't arrived. I will keep you updated. I've got a live link as to what's happening with it, but I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take at the moment. It might add a week, might add an extra couple of weeks onto delivery times. They are getting through a backlog of postage as we speak, so I'm really sorry about that. It's annoying, and I don't know what else to do, because unless I post out in bulk, it's no cheaper for me to use another service, so there's only really that way of posting for me at the moment. Did I have any other announcements? Just I think you're all amazing. I think that was it for this week, really. I'll probably think of something else as soon as I press stop. But no, I think that's it. I think that's it for this week. Yeah. One last thing. I recently, last week, did a podcast with Strong Tea Chats. It's an amazing podcast. Loads of really, really good stuff. They talk about stuff that most people don't talk about. A bit like me, they're not afraid to tackle really difficult topics, really openly and honestly. Love them. Really recommend a listen, not just because I'm on there, but I chatted to them about my addiction journey, about recovery. Really, really good. So I'll put a link up to it so you can go and have a listen. That's definitely it now. That's it. That's all my updates. So yes, I will see you this weekend for our very first live of 2023 with me and the Furfur, and some epic news for you all. And I will update you about the PIP appeal as soon as I hear. But then I'll see you this weekend anyway, so we'll go from there. Right, thanks for watching, everybody. Take good care of yourselves. Have a lovely rest of week, and we will see you live on Saturday. Mwah.